Howdy fellas, SWANSTEMBER Part 8 here, the Great Annihilator. Hell yeah. Okay. Oh, whoa, man. The show must go on. In 1995, Swans released The Great Annihilator. Pretty much the last album of their gothic post-punk era. Discounting The Burning World, The Great Annihilator is their most accessible album to date. There's a much more general, broader appeal to a lot of the songs on this album. These songs are listener-friendly to the point where I'd say this is the best entry point to the band. I mean, if you want to go straight for noise rock, start from the beginning. If you want to go straight for post-rock, start at the end. But this is a very accessible way to start. The Great Annihilator conveys a lot of the general components that make Swans so great. And on top of that, it genuinely is one of their best albums too. Swans didn't sacrifice anything by becoming more listener-friendly. They continued to experiment and push their sound into new territories, and that murky darkness that this band has always been known for still infests a lot of these tracks. To be fair though, The Great Annihilator isn't specifically just Swans made more accessible. Bits and pieces of their noisier industrial past work their way back into the sound here. Songs like My Buried Child and Alcohol the Seed sound like they could have come from their earliest eras. I think that's ultimately what cements The Great Annihilator as one of my favorite Swans albums. They blended together all the best bits and pieces of all their eras so far into a very dark odyssey that is just as forward-thinking as it is accessible. Like, there's literally no way to lose with this. Just like on White Light from the Mouth of Infinity, the lyrical content takes another huge leap forward here. Draw begins to tap into something otherworldly and super captivating. There's a very cosmic sense to this album that isn't just stemmed from the lyrics, it's the entire album's sound. Several songs just feel like cosmic experiences, like Mind, Body, Light, Sound, the title track. The end section of She Lives sounds like you're just ascending. This cosmic, otherworldly sense to the album really feels like Draw's about to tap into the music that makes Soundtracks for the Blind so great. All over this album are moments and songs where the band just really feel like they're just getting to that next level, where the music really takes you aback and starts putting you in its own universe. Jarboe's role with the band really feels expanded here as well. On most previous albums, she either sung backing vocals or she had a little pretty song here and there. She's helped a lot with arrangements too. Don't underestimate just how much Jarboe contributed. But on The Great Annihilator, she seems to portray a lot of different personas. On Mother Father, for example, she's very in your face and she gives the song a super hypnotic punk rock feel. On My Buried Child, she takes a more spoken word approach where she's talking over a bunch of background vocals from herself, all on top of this loud mechanical loop. Mother's Milk sounds like this really creepy lullaby. Speaking on these specific tracks, I think the sheer quality from The Great Annihilator comes a lot from its individual tracks. The consistency from track to track is so good, and that's what elevates it to a top 3 Swans album for me. It's rare that a song doesn't feel essential. I've been trying to avoid a track-by-track analysis kind of approach this month, but I really feel like I have to talk about it this way for this album, because that is where The Great Annihilator gets a lot of its strength. I Am the Sun cuts itself out immediately with little spaces of silence and pounds aggressively where you'd expect a traditional chorus to be. She Lives is this dark, haunting dirge. The outro is so epic and transcendental, like I mentioned before, draws just that close to tapping into the Soundtracks for the Blind sound. Celebrity Lifestyle is the closest thing that Swans have to like a normal alternative rock song, but it's still shrouded in its own dark view on celebrity culture. Blood Promises a Softer Detour, very touching song. It later goes on to become one of their best post-rock songs. Mind, Body, Light, Sound again just sounds like this experience, like you're ascending to some higher plane of existence. Warm is a lush and beautiful, unexpected little detour. Killing for Company, one of my favorite Swans songs, is an intensely moody, slower song, lyrically depicting a serial killer that kills out of loneliness. It's one of the most emotionally powerful songs I know. It fills me with dread every time. Where Does a Body End and Telepathy set up the final stretch for the climactic finale of the title track. The title track just being one of their most epic songs, period. And the outro supplies a hazy, loungy finish for the entire experience. Overall, The Great Annihilator is one of the most rewarding, all-around impressive efforts Swans have put out. The Great Annihilator holds a lot of the same emotional power and thematically heavy weight as Soundtracks for the Blind. The subtle variation track by track that warps around also kind of gives off this feeling. The Great Annihilator carries a lot of the same spirit and essence as Soundtracks for the Blind, applied to far more accessible dark gothic rock songs. Really though, when it comes down to it, Soundtracks for the Blind is where it's at. I don't know if you've noticed by now, but I think Soundtracks for the Blind is their best album. And since the first time I heard it, it has remained one of my favorite albums of all time. Stay tuned next time for that. I love Soundtracks for the blind.
Bazinga.